The Brandon Peters Show may contain explicit language and detailed plot points. For more information on the show, stay tuned to the end of the episode. And now, here's Brandon.
We now find that rebellion equals witchcraft.
Yes.
And this, they want to point out, this isn't the good versus evil kind of rebellion. Okay.
No, it's not.
That's
the American
allowed.
Revolution.
It's what? It's not the what?
It's not the American Revolution.
No. Yep. Yeah, this is good rebellion is okay, not witchcraft, but rebellion is witchcraft. Pick and choose, just like your passages in the Bible and what books go in the Bible. You pick and choose. You pick and choose.
Well, it's all witchcraft.
Yeah. And they decide to attack Live Aid. But like when Rock came together to do something good, and they said the money went to a dictator, and few starving people were ultimately saved.
Yeah, because that's all Bob Geldof's fault.
How many people are ultimately saved from your collection baskets? Just want to.
Yeah,
more would be saved from your taxes. More would be saved from your taxes.
It's a cheap shot in a whole legion of cheap shots.
Oh yeah, because they did more than that whole organization did in a lifetime for one day.
It's especially ironic given the climate of today, where it's like you can very easily see a guy like Eric Hobag having a "I've got mine, fuck you" philosophy of existence. So the tag Live Aid is like a really cheap drive-by.
Oh yeah, and they he goes, which is really the better solution to the world's problems, rock and roll or Jesus, the Rock of Ages? Ooh, smooth one, Eric. And then
got their high fives in the editing room over there.
Bam, bam, Eric to
Eric.
Eric.
A few missed high fives, I guess.
Oh yeah, totally. The white fives is what I like to call it. Or the little pullbacks. And he constantly throughout this refers to the rock industry as a multi-billion-dollar industry. And I'm like, yeah, but what is Christianity? Isn't that also a multi-billion-dollar industry?
Well, the other funny subtext of this is that this is being made given all the music that we see in it. We can pin it to a date. I mean, there's obviously the copyright date, but we know that to have In Your Room by the Bangles in there, it's got to be 89. And but by this point, the Jim Baker thing had happened. The Jimmy Swaggart thing had happened. The Oral Roberts, if you don't give me enough money, God's going to call me home thing had already happened. So all of these big televangelists were crumbling at the same period of time. And so it's kind of hilarious that it's like in the face of the Satanic Panic going on, but at the same time all of these evangelists are taking dives over self-inflicted wounds that are all like greed and lust kind of stuff.
For real. We now aptly speaking and fitting, we now move to Dio, Ronnie James. You knew he was showing up in this. And like an invisible cancer that inevitably leads to death, so the seed of rock and roll has culminated in a blatant obsession of the occult. As Dio concert footage and videos is playing, and they then transcend into the El Cronado, the Devil Fingers, which I believe we talked about the origin of it last time.
Yeah, Ronnie James Dio attributes it to his grandmother,
which is hilarious.
Yeah, he's Rob.
His
What is his
famous
name?
Satanist grandmother that taught him the ways of Lucifer.
Paravona, I think, is Dio's real last name. But anyway, he's got his, he has Roma and Jewish and Italian family members in his background. And he said that his grandmother would make this as a sign to ward off evil. It was a religious sign, against the evil eye, which incidentally is related to the live long and prosper
Right.
of Star Trek fame, which Nimoy says is based on a Jewish hand blessing. So they're not too terribly far apart from the this. It was originally presented, and if you see Dio do it, Dio doesn't like this a lot. And then Gene Simmons, who also claims to have created it, does this a lot, which becomes throwing horns, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But that there is a kind of etymological history of like where Dio developed that from, and part of it was he was trying to figure out what to do with his other hand. He's like, when you're singing and you've got this hand, it's like, what do you do? A lot of people play a tambourine, or Henry Rollins grips tenaciously with both hands, and like Dio's like, what the fuck am I doing?
Yep.
And like Robert Plant, everybody's got their other hand thing when you see it. Mariah, Christina Aguilera, but Dio decided this was his thing.
Yeah.
And he's always got it at the ready. Like you sometimes just see like even casually, he's still just kind of like got it down to the side. So he quick draw it. Like a rainbow in the dark. Don't give us a music strike.
Oh gosh. But yeah, and they even go back, they find it on the Yellow Submarine cover, which I thought was hilarious, which is like, is it though? It's like his hand, like
yeah, it's John's. Like, they've got 4 fingers, man.
Yeah.
In the Yellow Submarine art.
Oh my gosh. And we now go into the popular new section. In the 80s saw the development of a macabre style of rock, which was The Cure, The Smiths, all the new wave type stuff. It combined with an intelligence and a poetic passion rarely found in the other rock music, which dissing the rock with rock.
Yeah, this is goth, which they never call goth because I think they didn't figure. I think it's like there's a script page missing.
Yeah,
it's like this other thing. Shit, what's it called? Oh, let's not mention it. They never say, but it's expressly goth. Even band, I know Sisters of Mercy say they're not goth. Blah blah. They are. It's all the bands that were the goth movement. The Dark Side of the New Romantic, however you want to address
others
it.
Get to label you. You don't label yourself.
Yeah, it's The Cure, it's Susie and the Banshees, it's Bauhaus. They explicitly spend some time on Bauhaus. It is like I said, the Sisters, all those bands that you hear like on a dark wave retro night. That's that's who they are. I don't think they didn't mention Echo and the Bunnymen.
There was like, I saw it written somewhere.
Yeah, it was. I think
I saw it written down, but they never said it. Yeah.
Yeah, but you know who we're talking about,
right? He's like,
and it's they really take some swings at the Cure a few times.
Oh yeah, they want to knock them down. This is at their big climb. They're pretty much just top of where they're at.
I think Disintegration would have been out because I think it was out that summer along with that Bangles album that also yielded Eternal Flame. I mean, this is when the Cure puts out Disintegration, and they nearly have a #1 hit with Love Song. I mean, this is very clearly
this is the top
era. But everything that they focused on is previous. Like Head on the Door is a 1985 album.
Yeah,
and they're talking about those lyrics. So, but yeah, I mean, and lyrically, Smith has always been kind of a seeker. He's always wrapped a lot of stuff in religious imagery or horror imagery or whatnot, especially, lullaby, things that he's, you'd think that they'd have a field day with like the Spider-Man is having me for dinner tonight, but that's not
nope.
They chose to go with. But or they don't mention the Cure had an album called Pornography.
They just skipped that. They're what's happening now. That's what they want. They're even what is even more remarkable about this music is that while most of the groups readily acknowledge and even embrace its open spirituality, most do so with the insistence that it is Christian in its orientation. This is very significant because Scripture makes it clear that the purest manifestation of the Antichrist spirit always comes from not from within, but from within the context of our Christianity. Not from without, but from with whatever. Fuck it. So anytime something be like, "But I'm a Christian," you're like, no, you're not, because if you go this way and this way, and then no, you're not. Like, it's like they can't even.
Yeah,
like
the two examples that they use are
you are
Ozzy.
always guilty in life. Always.
Yeah, the two examples that they use specifically at one point are around this point in the video is Ozzy and D. Snyder, and the funny one, like Ozzy's batshit crazy, and at that point he was not maintaining sobriety very well.
No.
Motley Crue tells a story of Ozzy snorting a line of ants when they were on tour. D, on the other hand, I'm friends with his son Jesse, and D is the guy that takes the crap off, goes home, family goes to church.
Yeah,
they sing Christmas songs. It's like
it's Alice Cooper too. That's what he.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Oh yeah, Alice was a devout Catholic.
He's a Sunday school teacher, I believe.
Yeah, he married. His wife was a dancer on his, and they've been married since the 70s. I think. These are they're family dudes. They put on a costume. They're actors.
Yeah,
in a sense. He is Vince, and then Vince puts on Alice.
Right.
And everybody that knows him calls him Alice, but it's. I think his wife calls him Vince, but I think everybody is Alice to everybody else. But they said the singer's name was Alice. I don't think you really understand.
Yeah. As we now segue into voodoo, we get a clip from Serpent and the Rainbow. I was like, oh, nice. I like that movie. Yeah. Wes Craven, so a very underappreciated Wes Craven film. But it was the hot voodoo movie of the time. Deal with like it's the most accurate to reality zombie movie ever made, because it's about the Haitian practice and that stuff. It's not grounded in reality, but it's closest to the actual study of what a zombie is in real life.
Yeah, we spend some time on Diamanda Gaius, of all performers, who has lent her voice to various horror films and so forth. She does some of the speaking in Serpent and the Rainbow that they mentioned, but also she did background vocalizations for Bram Stoker's Dracula, among other things, because she's just got a crazy voice, and she's still performing. She's like maybe 70 now. Oh. But yeah, it's like what? Because they throw in a couple of pictures of her. She's got the big dark hair and everything.
Right. Oh, we get Angel Heart gets a couple clips in here too. Another.
Well, that's totally Satan. We can just
Oh yeah. Yeah. Come on, dude. You're not even trying anymore. Hell's bells. They also have revealed that jazz, rhythm and blues, and rock come from voodoo. Fleetwood Mac, Haitian voodoo. Peter Gabriel, Haitian voodoo. Jimi Hendrix, Haitian voodoo. David Byrne, Haitian voodoo.
For those looking for the racism I mentioned earlier, this is
this is where we can get the blacks, all of them. Yeah, Haitian voodoo.
They throw a sidecar at Robert Johnson at one point, but I'm pretty sure that hip hop was not included in this particular documentary because they really just didn't understand it.
It wasn't going to stay around. In 20 years when people watch this, they weren't going to know it. They were going to, that hip hop thing that nothing happened.
Hippity hop.
Eric takes a moment to damn premarital sex for a bit before moving on to the Rolling Stones, and specifically Anita Pallenberg. She's a witch. They throw it at her that she is a witch, and full of rituals. Scott Cantrell is a death that they go on that they call it a ritualistic death. But in real life, it was a suicide by Russian roulette.
Yeah,
which I don't know about you, is not a ritualistic death. It's Deer Hunter, which I'm sure is a Satanistic movie to them, featured Russian roulette heavily. But and you look it up. I was like, I got curious about this one too. nowhere has anyone ever written about this being a ritualistic Satanist cult death, or about Pallenberg being a witch or this shit.
Yeah. If I might, Anita Pallenberg, if audience members don't know, was she was
She's in
Keith Richards'
Barbarella.
partner. Yeah, she was an actor and a model. Very beautiful in her day. She's with Keith Richards, but she had kind of a crippling heroin addiction over a long period of time, and eventually kicked it. But she's mother of one or two of Keith Richards' kids. And they also mentioned Marianne Faithfull, the great singer, who was Mick's girlfriend through a lot of this period. Fantastic voice. Oh my God, she's great. And she was gorgeous. She looked a lot like young Helen Mirren when she was young. It was beautiful. But this whole story of Anita and Marianne Faithfull is a really interesting one. And in the Stones book, Old Gods Almost Dead, by Stephen Davis, they talk a lot about how integral they were to the Stones and the band. And they talk about the things in this video, like the recording of the album Goat's Head Soup, how they did get into the Jamaican sounds and all the Jujuka sounds and everything. That book has like a very interesting real take on how music is made. And I mention it because the ladies figure very heavily into the book and about the Stones' whole arc of their career. Anita Pallenberg was Brian Jones's girlfriend first.
Yeah, and then went to
and so
but this Pallenberg stuff, I'm like, this is fucking slander, man. This is like really bad slander.
She was totally alive at the time. I'm just assuming that it missed their notice. This would have been...
I'm sure this probably didn't hit the radar big or enough for them to care. People probably laughed about it then. Today, if that came out, even if everybody thought it was bullshit, they'd go after it. But back then, they would laugh it off because there was a celebrity was different back then. There was a privacy to it that something like this, I'm not going to go give that attention. They can say what they want about me. I know who I am. The people who know me know who I am. Who fucking cares? But today, they would have to go online. They'd have to make a tweet that condemns this or something. Like, I am not, it's a whole different world of celebrity when this came out.
Yeah, and this was also like this was Steel Wheels Stones era. They shot like the whole concert for Fox network during this year, so they were as visible in the 80s at this point as they ever were. So if something like this might have popped up in a big way, they probably would have stepped on it real hard.
Gotcha. Yeah, they move on to Kenneth Unger, who's a Satanist who had actual ceremonies to make Lucifer rise.
Yeah.
Actual one. Did he rise? Do you call it? If he doesn't rise, is it an actual ceremony?
Bizarre rituals intended to bring about the end of the world.
Right. We now are told this is where we get into Zeppelin, Jimmy Page, Satanist, flat out. And we start opening the door to about Aleister Crowley.
Mr. Crowley.
And we I knew Jim Morrison was going to show up at some point. But
he's always late.
He's here. Like a Rolling Stone, he married a witch, and they drank the blood of Satan at their wedding ceremony.
Yeah.
And guess what? And then he was like, and he died later, drunk in the bathtub. What do you think that was from? Like
alcoholism.
Probably because he was a fucking drunk and had a problem. Like, his problems had nothing to do with Satan. Where was I? Oh, so we next head on to, and you knew it was going to go there, the quote about homosexuality near and dear to the great beast's heart. That's what. So Satan is LGBTQ friendly. Plus, so another reason, like, he ain't a bad guy.
Yeah.
He's accepting.
Curiously, no direct mention of any out musicians from the period.
No, they had George Michael right there. They had him. And we, of course, our favorite game, the Ouija board. Many view as just a harmless game. Yeah, because it's made by Parker Brothers?
Parker Brothers makes the Ouija board.
They're not Connell Cochran, Silver Shamrock. They make other
They mentioned Cheap Trick got their name from the Ouija board, which A, cracks me up, and B, Cheap Trick.
Yeah.
The devil says, Rick, if you wear these hats for the rest of your life, you get to be famous.
I want you to want me in my satanic temple.
If you want Satan, you've got it.
Wherever you go, yeah. Is it that
flames of hell?
Flames of hell.
We're all right.
Yes. Oh God. Satan's all right. Lucifer's all right. Aleister Crowley's all right with me. Yeah.
Well, again, the willingness to play out the thread to the craziest possible extension of anything while leaving, unbrought. They mention the obvious stuff. They mention, Motley Crue's Shout at the Devil and some of the deep cut tracks from, the first album. And they mention, a lot of these bands that traffic in that. But they never maintain their focus on them because in their opinion, apparently, they just aren't famous enough.
Right. Yep. There you go. They aren't going to get the clicks. That's modern stuff we can in. Now we finally come back to where they teased us in the beginning. We're going to go to the backward phenomenon called backmasking, whereas when you play the record backwards, which when you play that backwards, I'll say bullshit. But so listening forwards, the preferred method of enjoying music. It's like, no shit, dude. No shit. I didn't know that before I watched this. I was like, oh, I'm gonna start listening to things forwards now.
All wrong.
He plays an example of that is precisely what Satan has planned for us. It says that is precisely what Satan has planned for us. It could be argued that there is no significance here beyond the fact that three guys okay, back up. He plays one of them and it says that is precisely what Satan has planned for us when you play it backwards. And then Eric says it could be argued that there is no significance here beyond the fact that three guys like to get weird just to sell records. Probably what it is, dumbass.
Yeah, I've never. Okay, let's start with there's no discernible, real backward stuff.
So, okay. So, yeah, he said, okay, so he talks about mind control and he says there isn't a shred of reputable evidence supporting this hypothesis anyway. So, what if there is some subliminal suggestion going on here? We fucking stop there, you dumbass.
We can't prove it, but what if we could?
What if, rather than stop, let's just keep going. Okay. This guy's clearly not JFK Jr., but let's continue to believe he is.
I would love to know how many of these actually circulated. How many kids were actually shown this? How many kids suffered consequences from their parents because they had a, George Michael album?
Right.
Yeah.
I hear him.
It's got to be awful.
Oh yeah, yeah. You brought home poison? Poison in your brain.
They want action. You shouldn't want action.
Sit down. We're watching a 3-hour thing instead of listening to a 40-minute album.
Great. Then the kid's like, Merciful Fate. I gotta check that out.
Troy, there are a few types of backmasking. 3 types. One is intentional. It makes sense forwards and backwards. So that wouldn't really be backmasking if you're going forwards. But
kind of a palindrome, I think.
Yeah. Well, that might not make sense, but just go with us here. There's just an accident. Mathematical probabilities of that, just absurd. Just like your theories here. And then the third type, spiritual. outside forces are able to play an artist deceived and snared by Satan. And then the song they play after he says this is Rock You Like a Hurricane. Here I am. I was like, wait, that's the one you chose?
That's not even the most outwardly satanic Scorpion song.
Yeah, like, what in the so all these artists get out scot-free. Satan got into them.
Yeah.
And made them record it, put it onto the wax record backwards so someone could play it forwards and get his message. And then he left their body. And they're like, well, I don't know what happened, man. I don't...
Klaus, Schinker, listen.
Yeah.
Did we record this?
Yeah. God, what? Insanity. Like, I just can't, like, oh, wow. And we start getting examples now. And they use subtitles to basically force your brain to think that's what they're saying.
Yeah.
With no subtitles, you might not hear it. But with subtitles, you hear it. He starts with ELO's El Dorado, forwards and backwards. He goes, even forwards, there's an anti-Christian sentiment here. The funniest one for me, Queen, Another One Bites the Dust.
Yeah.
Plays backwards, start to smoke marijuana. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
And it sounds so stretched, like, okay, I can hear it because you're putting the subtitles there, but it's like, start to smoke marijuana.
It's like it is like the famous footage of it was in VH1 Behind the Music when they talked to the lawyer that presented the suicide solution case, and he was trying to assert that it played backwards. It says, "Get the gun, shoot, shoot, shoot." And they cut to Ozzy going, "I'm speechless, man. Speechless." Yeah.
Right. And
you'd think
with this backmasking and shit, you'd want it to sound clear and like it is what it is when it plays backwards, not like it's like subtitles say like shoot up heroin and go kill mom. Like, no.
Yeah. This is my cousin. She looks just like Laura Palmer.
Yeah.
You know, it's
that's so crazy.
And that's what something recorded backwards and played forward sounds like.
Right, exactly. Exactly. Oh, Cheap Trick. They come back here. Gonna Race Hell. Satan holds the key to the lock. To what door, though? The door to your heart. Zeppelin, of course, comes here with Stairway to Heaven, which he says, there's enough poison in this song forwards to prove fatal.
Yep. They get really into Pan.
Yeah.
The Pan references.
Oh, this made me like. He says, the fatal lie in this lyric is there's always time to change the road you're on. No doubt the man who played the drums on this song thought that until he found himself choking on his own vomit. And by then it was too late.
Like, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like.
That's how you can tell that Jason Bonham has never seen this, because he would have found that guy and killed him.
Yeah. Like, wow. How to say you're a piece of shit, John Bonham, without saying you're a piece of shit, John Bonham. Like, wow. Like, I could, like, no respect for the dead in this at all from a place, from people who you would think would have a respect for the dead. I mean, they fucking like worship the altar of a dead guy. Like
they're all in hell, so it doesn't matter.
Oh God, they're having fun. That's what they're doing. Fuck. But they reverse Stairway to Heaven, and it says, "My sweet Satan, no other made a path for it made me sad, sweet Satan." And he's like, there is nothing sweet about Satan. He had to make that clarity. He wanted before people got the wrong idea.
Yeah, I to be honest, I've never understood in particular why Stairway was the lightning rod of the epic 70s songs, when clearly the one that invites the most interpretation in that regard is Hotel California.
Yeah.
But Stairway is more of, like Plant's medievalist Tolkien bullshit.
Album cover too has a lot of stuff they've got, like their fonts, the symbols they use. Probably like, let's find the track off of, and that was the big track off of that. So they went after it.
Yeah.
They just
nobody ever wants to find any meaning in four sticks though. It just
and you have to give God a chance. That's what we're told.
All we were saying.
Right. Our next section is excuses for listening to this music. Intention and motivation. Not my fault the groups I like sing about this stuff. No, It is your fault. You can't excuse it. Artists who are considered neutral or not neutral. This is where he goes into the Whitney Houston spiel.
Well, what is that? They have a staged video of some kids sitting on a car talking. I feel like that was shot expressly for this. I don't.
Yeah, and there was like a concert one too that they shot for it too.
Where
the host was in the middle of it all. Like, yeah.
Yeah, and the girl says, "I listen to neutral artists." I'm like, man, I have never heard that term.
Yeah,
ever.
No, that's their bullshit. That's more of their bullshit. Like, this is probably real. Like, yeah. And he says, as an artist, she has permitted sex and sexuality to sell her music, and she poses like this, which is the picture we talked about earlier. And he says, he calls "Saving All My Love for You" a Satanist tune.
Because it celebrates adultery.
Yeah. He then goes on to make a strychnine comparison. Says, unlikely people would take Satan's bitter poison straight.
Which that is one of the most batshit crazy moments of the whole thing. It's like the children leave the powder alone, but hide the strychnine in candy and they'll eat it. Like,
he has this room of children with this powder in the middle of it. They show the example. And then he puts it in M&Ms and then leaves it in the room. And he considers pop music sugar-coated poison in candy. And then it cuts that dude on life support in the hospital. Like, what the fuck? Like, he's here because of rock music. Like, what? Like, wow.
Yeah.
Insanity. And we start getting really preachy. He's God is reality. His word is truth. Jesus is salvation. Heavy metal mocks this. Pop music ignores it. Like, it's like if you're not doing everything at any moment, at any time that's in service of God or Jesus, your life is living the wrong way. Like, every song has to be about Jesus. Well, every speech about Jesus.
And they make it very clear that, you can't fix that.
No, you cannot. If we truly love God, we will be offended by things that mock his character, ignore his love, or pervert his truth. If instead we gravitate toward to and embrace these type of things, we don't really love God. We simply can't. So, yeah. Sorry for you Wham fans out there, but you simply can't love God. Yeah.
You don't want your freedom.
No. That careless whisper cost you so much. This shall be your last Christmas. We finally get to Michael Jackson, focusing all on Thriller. Thriller is filled with occult imagery, and
necromancy.
I forgot. Here's proof for people about the satanic panic being a real thing, how big it was, and how it existed. Is when you watch Thriller, there's a disclaimer for Michael Jackson at the beginning. I forgot about this. It says, this does not endorse the occult. It's like my views and all this stuff. And that's a whole lot of crazy to put before just a simple werewolf zombie video. but it is a true sign of the times and a true relic of the panic to have that posted in front of a harmless horror music video for a pop song.
Yeah. And it's, it's funny to me because on a few levels, the absolute endurance of that song has there's a lot of songs that have moved over to the Halloween category. And so Thriller gets to come back every year around Halloween.
Right.
Its popularity in general remains undiminished.
I'd even call it one of the best horror films of the 80s, even. Like, it's a short film. It's a music video. But hot damn, it's got Landis, it's got Vincent Price, the costumes, like, it's insane. So good.
Yeah, it's incredibly well made. The choreography is outstanding. It's got the great tag with the Michael's eyes and the Vincent Price laugh. I mean, that's a true, it's an artifact of the music video age. It's an artifact of the 80s. And like you said, that opening card slots it right in with everybody's crazy right now.
Right. Yep. And I need to still sell records to you white Southern Baptist kids.
Yeah. And Thriller was not even the opening single of Thriller. It was like
it was Billie Jean.
Fourth? Yeah.
It was Billie Jean. And
Beat It was
Beat It second or third.
Yeah. I think PYT might have been one, or The Girl Is Mine. The Girl Is Mine was ahead of that.
Okay. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, having that there, like, Landis wouldn't have given a shit, but I was definitely at the behest of probably Michael Jackson, and probably the record company worried at that time that it would be a turnoff that he would do that video.
Thriller was the 7th single.
7th?
Girl Is Mine was October 82, Billie Jean. Beat It, Wanna Be Starting Something, Human Nature, PYT. Thriller was released November 2nd, 1983 as a single.
Wow.
That's crazy. That's one of the
and that's the biggest song on the album. Like,
yeah.
Well, Billie Jean,
Billie Jean and Beat It were number ones.
Yeah.
But
I mean, the album just start to finish, nothing like it. I mean, you can say what I mean. Yes, Michael Jackson is a controversial figure, but the album was what it was. Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
I'm old enough to remember when there was no controversy about that stuff. We just enjoyed that album, so it's hard to take my initial feelings away from it. But that is a definition of a banger.
Yeah, I don't think it's one of those things. Will Wheaton recently wrote about separating a flawed or failed creator from a work that you enjoy, and he was specifically talking about Joss Whedon and all the shit he's done.
Yeah, and
so you can still enjoy Buffy because the actors and other writers and all the other people that were involved in it made a thing that you like. And you don't have to just
a lot more people involved with stuff.
Yeah, and similarly with whatever your feelings on Michael Jackson are, if you take Thriller as an independent work of art, it's crazy.
Eddie Van Halen has a badass solo on Beat It. I mean, come on, folks.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous how much good stuff is on that record. But and it does, when stuff like that happens, the personal controversies, it gives openings to these predatory interests like this, Eric Kobag. Because
right. I did get a chuckle from Eric Kobag. He called, he's talking about what most people envision the devil as. He goes, the horn-headed dude in red pajamas. I was like, all right. It's a funny line, dude. Funny line. But Troy, to put on the show, we'll be talking on Friday's episode about Venus, which is featured in this. We talked about Dio on your last appearance on here. Your first appearance on the show, we talked about Huey Lewis in the News, who is not even safe from this.
No,
he's the next person because Huey was. They were at the. This was the height of Huey Lewis in the News. Jacob's Ladder is the one that they gotta take it down.
Yep.
He calls it a pleasant #1 hit song that becomes a startling presentation of satanic philosophy when viewed in the light of truth. The light of truth. Not false, the light of truth. Like, wow. Felt bad. I'm like, you see this guy made it step by step, one by one, and it's like, like, no. This is like, it's just, wow.
Yeah, it's hard to think of a more harmless, hey everybody, let's have a good time, rock star of the era than Huey Lewis, and not trying to hurt anybody, and somehow the poor guy gets associated with American Psycho for the rest of his life.
Right. I mean, we all know them, but they're probably like one of those things that was huge in its era that didn't carry over into just the overall pop culture. Like, I love Huey Lewis in the News, but they didn't carry over into the all-time pop culture consensus. But if you were there, there was nothing bigger than them, like at the time and all this, and they just didn't translate. Like, I was watching Patrick Willem's recent video essay about the Police Academy movies, which were humongous hits in the 80s. Like, and there were like 7 of them, but pop culture conscious, all this stuff, just no footprint, none. Huey Lewis has a footprint, but it doesn't tell the story of how gigantic they were in their moment.
Yeah, I think,
and for as long as it was,
there's a lot of willful forgetting, because I did a piece for the Saturday Evening Post this week about Hannibal Lecter. It's like the 40th anniversary of the character appearing in the Red Dragon novel first, and history has kind of made Hannibal, like, people want Hannibal to have been a failure with Julianne Moore replacing Jodie Foster and stuff. That movie made a shit ton of money.
Yeah,
it was a huge hit.
One of the biggest of the year, and one of the biggest R-rated grossers of all time.
Yeah, and they've retroactively consigned that to failure, a failure that didn't happen.
Right. Yeah.
And so that's you have
Matrix Reloaded was a humongous hit. Like, humongous hit, but people, those Matrix sequels failed. Nah. No, they did not.
It made a lot of money. It's one thing to say to not like it or to realize later that you didn't think it was very good. But you can't say that it wasn't successful.
Yeah, and in Hannibal's case, you don't make the money that thing was making by people not continuing to go or bad word of mouth. People, general audiences, probably liked Hannibal well enough at worst. Like, it did what they wanted, somewhat. And that had a pop culture, like, it was getting parodied a lot. People were seeing that movie. I mean, there was a lot of like quotes, things that from it, like in that moment for a few years. That, I mean, people knew that movie up and down.
Yeah.
But Troy, there's a band. They have a song called "Running with the Devil." It had a risque lead singer, but is that where they go here?
No, they go to
Sammy Hagar. Van Halen is what Van Hagar. That's where they could go Running with the Devil, David Lee Roth, Hot for Teacher, some sex stuff like Panama. No. Yep. Let's go with the safest version of Van Halen.
Sammy, he just can't drive 55.
The Best of Both Worlds denies the need for God. So that's why they and it was probably the most recent thing they had going on.
Oh, was it? They would have had OU 812 out after that. That would have been ahead of time. So
the churches that hadn't gotten their screener copies of it yet, the review copies.
Love?
Yeah. God.
If it's love, and finish what you started.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so funny. Contrary to the deceptive stereotype, this is what they're talking about, Satanism here, not Van Halen, but contrary to the deceptive stereotype, no black masses or wild sex rituals are necessary to be a follower of Satan. Simply deny the love and authority of God by living your life the way you want to.
That is the damned if you don't philosophy.
Yeah. Like, hey, I want to do what I want right now. Going to hell, bitch. Going to hell. Like,
there is no escape.
yeah. Then they give us the example of proper music and dancing, and it fucking sucks.
It looks like the weirdest folk festival you've ever seen.
It is some Midsummer stuff.
Yes.
It is creepy, bad, and you notice they threw their own subliminal message bullshit in here. There is a picture of a fetus during this. Did you notice that? They threw that in there quickly to throw it.
It should be noted that every overlay picture of the devil that they use is a capture of Tim Curry from Legend.
Yeah. Yes, it is. It is.
That appears throughout. And weirdly enough, some of the tricks that they use to probably avoid copyright entanglements by doing the negative images and stuff, they've clearly in this last segment taken scenes from religious film where there's an actor playing Jesus, but they've negative imaged that, which makes me think they knew that they didn't have the clearance to use that footage, so they also negative imaged it. Which is a very strange thing of all things to do the color reversal and saturation on. It was, the actual Jesus part.
Right.
It didn't, that it's just the weirdest conglomeration of stuff at the end. And then I don't want to give it away, but there's the big reveal.
Yeah, it's coming up. I want to point out back to their Christian music real quick that at some point in time, both this music, the song, the dancing was probably considered witchcraft by some sect of people.
Yeah.
Like this was probably Satan's concert or whatever at some point.
Yeah. That town in Footloose, they wouldn't have been down with it.
No, they would not.
But and it's interesting that they chose this. And again, 1989, another summer, Sound of the Funky Drummer. 1989, they went with that as opposed to Amy Grant, as opposed to Petra, as opposed to Michael W. Smith, all of these different acts that they could have used that were legit big.
Yeah, they were big. Yeah.
They could have used any of those. It's like, here's Amy Grant.
Yeah.
They did not.
Baby. Yeah. Yep. Nope. Not happening. This video has an obsession with obedience, devotion, lack of self, lack of choice. Like, it's awful. Like, this sounds like horrible. Like a horrible way to live your life. Like, and just like, wow, you are obsessed to like fucking listen, fucking don't, like, do you yourself think of God in every second of your day and like, thank you God for I'm breathing right now. Thank you God for that breath. Thank you God for being able to speak. Thank you God for letting me blink right then. Thank you God for like, fuck off.
It's a real siege mentality, like a Stockholm syndrome thing that kind of permeates the whole attitude of it.
Right. There's a honeybee comparison that ends this up, and he goes, and as Jesus often said in his time on earth, so he still says today, he who has ears to hear, let him hear, listen and obey. And like the honeybee who finds food, you shall live. Don't listen, or listen and don't obey, and you shall surely die. Fuck you, Jesus, asshole. What in the hell is that? Like, what kind of person, like, yeah, so if you like, he tells you to go do that, if you don't, you're going to die, man. Like, you're going to die. Like, what?
It is the worst kind of, pushing kids, because you imagine if they're using this in a Sunday school class, if you're using this in maybe like a middle school or a high school class, it is a kind of emotional terrorism.
Yeah, absolutely.
They know that kids are, they're listening to the radio, they're out doing stuff, it's like, oh man, I went to a football game and I heard a Whitney Houston song, I'm doomed. Like what about the kids that take it real seriously?
She wanted to dance with somebody. I hope it's not me. I don't want to go to hell, Whitney Houston.
That's what I think of, is the kids whose home lives were made awful.
Yeah.
By this decade-long siege of, all of this is bad and you're bad for liking it.
Yeah. And
there's no way out.
Your friends are bad, your friends' parents are bad, and they're bad, and everybody's fucking bad. Like,
and there's nothing you can do to make yourself better because you're too late. It's too late.
Right.
You played D&D, you're done. You listen to Motley Crue, you're
matter. Doesn't matter what you roll. You're dead. And your charisma in the eyes of the Lord is 0.
And all of this is just being exposed to culture. It has nothing. It's like,
it's just learning things, trying something new, evolving, creation. It's you're creating. Like, didn't their Lord create, and you can create? Oh no, you're not supposed to. Blasphemous. So he says, no matter how suffocating Satan's lies become, they're no match for the truth. Sounds like they are, because Rock's still here.
Yeah.
Madonna's still kicking. Like, what? You lost. Truth. We're living lies. And now all that remains is the act of obedience. Receive the love and forgiveness that is his goodness to grant. Okay. So there's a big revelation here at the end. Eric, our host, was a rock star. 9 years ago, at the height of his rock days, he gave himself to God.
He was a rocker.
Which
is interesting, because he was apparently salvageable.
Apparently he can move on, because I thought once you did these things, it was over.
Yeah, there's
God spoke, you will eternally have to lean to the side for the rest of your life when on camera.
Yeah, at this point, he's straight. When he makes the big reveal, this is when he's finally moved
he's like
actual framing.
I am a rocker. Yeah. And he gives a final word of advice. If you still haven't established that relationship with God, please think hard about what you've just seen and heard. Pray and ask God to reveal the truth to you. Surely you can't be frightened of the truth. And if you did pray that prayer, tell someone about it. You can even contact us here at Real to Real. Take care, and I'll see you in our Father's kingdom. So is he going to drink Kool-Aid and die? Like, was that where he, like...
Mr. Eric is still with us.
Yeah.
And his company, he's morphed his company. It's not Real to Real anymore. I'm drawing the blank on the name, but he does have a Twitter account.
Oh, God.
And his tweets are almost exclusively, I liked this video on YouTube.
Oh, gosh.
It's probably all videos related to his various production companies.
How many followers does he have?
It was not many.
False idol. If you're having followers, you shouldn't. Only Jesus should have followers. Only Jesus. And the Second Unity United Baptist Church in Monroe, South Carolina, off 4th Street, next to the 76 station.
It's apologetics group.
Oh. I'm sorry I made this video. I'm sorry I did it.
Yeah, and all of his tweets are, well, he's got a couple of other things, but they're generally, I liked a YouTube video. John Piper's The Sin of Abortion. I liked the YouTube video, Daniel Explained. I liked the YouTube video, Police Dog Blues.
Police Dog Blue. Is that Satanist or blues, or is it like?
I don't know. One's truth. One's Gumroad tutorial. How to sell thousands of digital products online.
God. Leaving for the rally in Texas. About to see a resurrection
of JFK Jr.
Yeah, so that's this fucking video, and oh my gosh, I tell you what, like as peeved as I can, like it was a trip to watch and think that anybody could put this together. Somebody could watch it and buy into it, or they force people to see it. Like,
Yeah. Again, I'm vastly curious at this point as to how many of these things were sold, how often they were seen, how long they stayed in use. You know, it would have been kind of hilarious for someone to try to even hit like a middle school class just 5 years later in 1994.
yeah,
You know, it would be like, what? Who's that? I don't know who that is.
get the AV cart out, put the TV, pop the VHS in, tape 1 of 5.
Yeah, and this will be a recurring theme as we talk about products of the panic. As all these people that are so dramatically concerned about the children were abusing the hell out of children with all this stuff, with beating them metaphorically with, this makes you awful, this makes you bad, liking this makes you bad, liking a horror movie makes you bad, you're bad, you know. And it probably resulted in some of the suicides that get attributed to other stuff. It probably resulted in drinking and drug use as kids sought out ways to deal with it.
Right.
You know, we don't know what the cost of that was.
Yeah.
And for every one thing that you could point to and say, okay, that guy was really fucked up, like a Richard Ramirez, there are a million other things that had absolutely nothing to do with any of it. You know,
it's insane.
Some poor bastard got the shit beat out of him by his dad, I'm sure, because he had a Dungeon Master's guide.
Yeah.
Some kid had a Ghost Rider comic book, probably had their stuff taken away and burned. You know, I mean, who knows what this
kids disowned or like that. Imagine a college kid coming back. You play D&D. You're not my son. I want to just play my fucking game, Mom.
So I started a band. Get out. Yeah, and it's like, you know, there are very few parents who are Virginia Girl.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, just insane. Just insane. But that'll wrap up our first look into products of the panic, and I hope you enjoyed hearing this craziness. Like I said, you can find it to watch yourself. It is 3 hours, but I hope you got the gist of it. Or sounds like we're lying and making up shit. We are not. I directly quoted things. I rewound the thing to make sure unlike them, I can cite my source. It is this one thing, and you can go look it up. But just this wildly inappropriate, like just irresponsible stuff. It's crazy. But and
I was going to say, and be aware, you know, if you're with us going forward, if
you haven't turned it up,
the context argument comes up again and again and again, trying to quote things out of context and use things out of context as a weapon. That is pervasive throughout this, and all these different lyrics that they quote and everything, they're just not related at all to the point they want to make, but they're just vague enough that you know,
right,
that they can assign meaning to them and get people to believe it.
Exactly. Yeah, there'll be more. We're gonna research. We already know a couple things that we'd like to talk about down the road here, but this will be a recurring segment type thing on this show, just like the commercials with Jessica. But like, it's a topic I'm very interested in. I love just sitting and listening to Troy talk about it. Troy is very interested in himself. So we will be exploring more of these, and this is a big one to start out. So here you are. I appreciate those of you who sat through this whole thing. So before we go, I'm still just stunned by it, but this is a hell of a way to start. Troy, thanks for coming on as always. I love getting your mug out, cleaning it, and filling it up for you to come on the show. Let people know what you got going on recently and where they can keep up with you.
Well, let's see. The main thing that people might find is my work for the Saturday Evening Post, which you can find me tweeting about on Twitter at Troy Brownfield. I write a collecting column for graphicpolicy.com, and I still have my various comic book work. I have a new thing coming out that I don't think I can talk about yet because it hasn't been solicited, but I wrote a crossover comic that is being done by my Brazilian friends, House 137, and an American company.
Oh.
And as soon as I can talk about that, I will. But so watch that at Troy Brownfield space or on Instagram or Facebook, and I will be talking about those kinds of projects. So
awesome. Excellent. And I'm on Twitter and Instagram at BrandonForka UHD, written work at whysoblue.com, where I have lots coming because I'm behind on things, and getting into it with Sex and the City fans on YouTube, my YouTube channel. Check that out. There's more from the Brandon Peters Show this week, but until then, hail Satan.
Keep your feet on the ground and keep reaching for the Satan.
Yes.
Thank you for listening. The Brandon Peters Show is a Creative Zombie Studios production. Produced by Brad Shoemaker and Brandon Peters. Written and edited by Brandon Peters. Announcer vocals by Jessica Alsman. Theme song by Metavari. Web design and show art by Brad Shoemaker with Brandon Peters. All music and clips featured in the episode are property of their respective studios, and no infringement is intended. Additional information on this and other episodes at BrandonPetersShow.com. For any inquiries, press opportunities, or sponsorship, contact mail at BrandonPetersShow.com. The show is available on Apple Music, Spotify, or anywhere podcasts are found.